everybody, welcome to another Beans Bag and Handicrafts Company tutorial. Today we are doing the one with the baby diaper bag by Sincerely Jen Patterns. Thank you, Jen, for allowing me to do a tutorial on your patterns. This bag is large and in charge. I don't know, I stand back a little bit so I can show you how big this bag is. So yeah, it's a diaper bag. I actually have a couple of these on order for gym bags. So they'd actually make a pretty awesome gym bag as well. So some of the features is the slip pocket in the back. We have this cargo pocket in the front. Crossbody strap. The boning, I still have to make it shape a little more. I'm going to take it and put some clips here. The boning is what makes it this shape. If you can see how incredibly wide this opens, you'll be in shock. Let me show you. I mean, seriously, look at that. So now I need grandbabies so I can have one of these for my grandbabies, but I think I'm a few years away from that. My kids are just out of university or in university. So anyways, I hope you guys like this tutorial. Sorry, my camera's all weird. Anyways, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so let's go through the many pieces that you are going to need to cut for this bag. There are a lot. I've spent half the morning just cutting out my pieces, fusing the interfacing, but trust me, this is the second one that I've made and it is completely worth it. This is the most amazing baby bag that I've ever made. I truly love it. So let's go through the hardware you're going to need for this. So you're going to need one magnetic snap, I'm using number 5 zipper. You'll need 2 number 5s. Actually, no, you'll need 3 number 5 zipper pulls. Let me double check this. 1, 2, 3. You're actually going to need 4. 2 for the top closure. 1 for the front pocket and 1 for the interior. So the interior, you can use a number 3 zipper pull. I'm just keeping with number 5 because I'm using these super adorable pulls that I got from Blue Cala. I just love it. So I have to pull out another one of these because I need 4 in all. 2 1-inch swivel clasps and a slider for the crossbody strap. 2 D-rings for the connectors of the crossbody strap, and then rivets if you want to use rivets. I always use rivets when I'm attaching my handle, so I think I'm using rivets in this. Yeah, I will use rivets just to make it a little more stable, but it's not called for in the pattern, but I like rivets. So, okay, and another thing you're going to need is you're going to need, lots of this. Where is it? You're going to need 2.5 yards of 1/4 inch boning. So this is what it looks like. It's super stiff. And this is actually what makes the top of this baby bag absolutely amazing because it opens up so wide. It's very similar to when you use the metal rods in some of the bags, but we're doing it with this. So this boning I found at Fabricland in where all the bra making supplies are. So that was there. Now, if you can't find it just in the raw like this, you may find it like this, where it has a cloth overlay on it. And you can do that too. All you're going to do is take this middle part out of it. So if you can't find it where it's just the boning, it only comes like this. This is fine too. Just grab it and we're going to take it out of the cloth. So that's good. And you're also going to need 1/4 inch elastic, which I'm sure we all have on hand right now with it being COVID and the number of masks I'm sure we're making for all of our friends and family. So this is for the interior pockets, side pockets. Yeah. So actually it's very minimal hardware. You don't need too much, so that's good. Now onto the pieces. There are so many pieces. It is a very fabric hungry pattern, but it is a very large bag, so it is completely worth it. So let's go through and I'll show you what you need. Okay, so for the main zipper panel, you're going to need 2 lining pieces. Now, all of my cotton pieces I have interfaced with medium woven interfacing. What I use is Fashion Fuse from Cleaner Supply. You can use SF101, you can use Woven Fuse or Woven Fuse 2 or whatever it is that you have found works for you. But yeah, mine is a medium weight woven from cleanersupply.ca and it is called Fashion Fuse. So yes, 2 lining pieces for that. 2 contrast pieces. I'm using vinyl. I haven't yet, but I'm also going to go and I'm going to attach these pieces to foam. I just haven't cut the foam out yet. So that's what I'll be doing off camera, is attaching all my foam pieces to the pieces that need foam. Now, when you are attaching your foam, if you are using a domestic machine, and to sew in foam, I would suggest using a zigzag stitch all the way around. It'll just compress that foam a little bit more for you. Again, I'm on an industrial machine, so I'm not worried about that. My machine can handle it. You're also going to need 2 zipper panel support pieces. I made out of Decovil Heavy. You are not going to attach these at this moment. These you're going to put aside for later. Next, you're going to do your pocket zipper panel. Again, you need 2 lining pieces interfaced with your woven interfacing, 2 contrast pieces. Again, if you're using cotton for the things that I'm using vinyl for, you will have to put woven interfacing on the back, but I'm using vinyl, so I'm not doing that. These 2 pieces I will also be attaching to foam. You'll need 2 pocket, they're mirrored. These are the lining for the pocket gussets. Again, backed with woven interfacing. And I'm doing these ones in the vinyl. If they were cotton, back them with woven interfacing. I'm not, because I'm using vinyl, but I will be attaching these 2 pieces to foam as well. Okay. The side pocket panel, you're going to need 2 of your lining pieces. I said I got 2 different fabrics going on with my lining. But yes, 2 lining pieces for your side pocket panels and your 2 exterior. Again, I'm using vinyl, so I haven't backed these with anything. These do not need to be backed with foam. So yeah, those 4 pieces for the side panels. And we're not even halfway there yet. Okay, so for the bottom panel, you are going to need 1 lining piece backed with your woven interfacing. You're going to need a bottom stabilizer piece. I'm using Decovil Heavy for this. And I will be fusing it to the bottom of my panel, or my bottom panel. Again, I am using vinyl, so if you're using cotton, make sure you back it with your woven interfacing. I will be off camera going and fusing this onto the bottom like this, and then I will be attaching foam over top of this piece as well. Okay, so the front pocket panel, you are going to need, so cute. How cute is a skunk fur diaper bag? Get it? Skunky, diapers, stinky. Anyways, I think it's adorable with this Tula pink fabric. So this is for the front pocket panel. So you need 1 exterior, which you will be attaching to foam as well. And then a lining for that as well. And make sure they're both backed with your woven interfacing. You will need, again, backed with woven interfacing because I'm using cotton. This is your front panel. So this will also be attached to foam. So woven interfacing and sew-in foam. All right, you're going to need one piece in your lining fabric for your front pocket back. So this as well, woven interfacing, and will be attached to foam. Okay. So you are going to need one main of your exterior. This is for the slip pocket panel, which is in the back of the bag. So you need one of these. This will not be attached to foam. You don't have to worry about that. You need this, and then you're going to need in the same 1, 2, 3 lining panels of that. So what that is, I don't want to show you the pocket piece here, but this is the main panel, and then there's a dotted line at the top here. And that's just fold down to get the slip pocket panel. So you'll have the one exterior piece, the 3 lining pieces cut with that, and make sure if you're using cotton, they are all backed with the woven interfacing. As well, from the same pattern piece, you're going to need one exterior piece, which is going to be attached to foam interfacing, and then your 2 lining pieces of that main panel. Okay, so that's the back of the bag. Okay. You're going to need 2 connector pieces, 2 handle pieces. Okay, now these pieces are for the slip pocket, or the side slip pockets on the interior of the bag that we'll be putting the elastic on. So you're going to need 2 of your lining fabric and then 2 inside of that pocket. So I chose this one for the inside of the pocket pieces, both backed with woven interfacing. Okay, your side panels, you need 2 exterior and 2 lining. Again, they have the woven interfacing. Anything that's cotton, make sure you have the woven interfacing on. I'm going to stop saying attach it to woven interfacing. So if you're using cotton, make sure that you have the woven interfacing on there. So for the exterior pieces, there's a side panel stabilizer that's slightly smaller than your pieces, your side pieces. So when you attach these, I'll show you, to your foam, they're going to end up, you can see how there's a section up here. So you're going to sew your foam on here, but along this top part here, you are actually going to top stitch along that curve. What that does is it's going to make it so the bag folds in properly for how the zipper panel comes down, and then it'll make it so it opens wide. So you don't want to stitch across this top part when attaching the foam. You will be top stitching along this bottom part to attach it to the foam. And that top stitching is going to show on this side of the bag. So when you're doing the foam for these ones, make sure that you're taking that into account when you're doing it. Whoops. Trying to stay organized here. We're almost through the pieces. Okay. 2 interior zipper pocket pieces. And then your crossbody strap. I'm doing my crossbody strap in cotton, so that is fused with the woven interfacing. You can also do it in the vinyl if you want. So that is it. All of those pieces are going to make this most amazing diaper bag. There are a lot of pieces. I said this is going to be probably a 2-day job for me, as I've already spent half the day cutting out these and fusing them all. So what I'm going to do off camera now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make my crossbody strap. I'm going to make my handles, and I'm going to make my connectors. These are all in my Bag Makers 101 playlists. I've done these tutorials before on these, just shorter ones. So if you're not sure how to construct those, make sure you go into that playlist and see those videos, and they will guide you through that. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to attach my foam interfacing, and then we'll be back and start constructing this bag. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to start working on that front cargo pocket. So we're going to start with the zipper panel for that. Now I do cut my zipper just a little bit longer than what it says, just because I think it's better to be too long than too short, and we can trim it up if we need to. So you want to take your zipper or zipper by the yard like I'm using. You're going to take one of your pocket zipper panel linings, lay it face up. I like to take some double-sided tape. You can also clip this. I just love using double-sided tape, especially on zipper panels. I find it so easy and so fast because I skip a whole step with this. So that's face up. Take your tape off. And then see, I'm just going to make, I have these overhanging on each side a little bit. You don't have to have that. I just do that. And you're going to line up that edge. So the zipper tape is face up and the lining panel is face up as well. Like so. Now you can choose, you can go to your machine and you can baste this together right now. I'm actually not going to do that because the tape is going to hold it in place pretty good for me. I'm going to take one of my zipper pocket panels, the exterior ones that's basted with foam, and place some double-sided tape on one side of that as well. And then you want to make sure the lining piece and the exterior piece are even. And line up those raw edges. So now this exterior piece is right sides together with the zipper tape. So we're making a zipper sandwich. Oops. And it looks like I cut my zipper panel too long. I'm just going to make sure it's the vinyl one that's too long, and it is. See, I cut it too long there. So I'm going to trim it up, and I was just making sure that I didn't cut the lining piece wrong, and I didn't. So I'm just going to trim up that zipper panel like so. So they're even. That's my bad. Okay, and then I am going to take this to the machine and put on my zipper foot. Okay, it says to use a quarter, you're going to stitch along this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what we'll do. Right, so we've stitched that together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now what we want to do is kind of finger press. This is a reason to keep, you can keep it long too, is you can kind of pull your zipper pull out of the way. I'm wishing that I had done it on the other side a little bit longer, but that's okay. So you want to push your exterior and your lining pieces wrong sides together. And I just like to put a few clips in it just to keep it even. You want to make sure that lining is away from the zipper for sure. If you're using cotton, you can definitely take this to your iron and press it to create this nice seam, but I'm using vinyl, so I have to finger press it best I can. Okay. So I want to double check. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go along the top here, and we are going to top stitch with a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, as well as I'm going to go around this outside edge and just baste it so the pieces don't move. So that is all top stitch. Ignore the shininess, that's just fresh oil on from my machine. So now we're going to do the same thing to attach the other side. So take your lining piece, your double-sided tape, put on this one as well while I have my tape out. And then both lining and zipper right side up again. But what we want to make sure is, just one sec, that our pieces line up on both. So we want to make sure that they're going to be even. I'll show you what I mean, one sec here. Quite even. See how they're even like this? Just want to make sure that the panels are the same length. There we go. Just like that. So you can see how this goes to the same length on both sides. And I'm pretty sure I probably cut this one too long, which I did. Okay, and then we're going to make that zipper sandwich again. So take your external piece and put it right sides together, making sure you're lining up so they're even, both panels, and attach it. Like that, and then you're going to go and stitch that with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, turn them wrong sides together, and top stitch and baste. Okay, so I've done that, and I've gone and I have trimmed my zipper tape up to be the same length as my zipper panel. Now what you want to do is you want to lay your zipper panel right side up. You want to make sure your zipper pull closes to the right. Now we're going to put on the exterior lining gusset pieces for this zipper pocket, for this front cargo zipper pocket. Very similar way that we did the zipper panel. So what we want to do is I've gone ahead and I've put my double-sided tape at the short end of all 4 pieces. Again, you can use clips, that's fine. And these are going to go down in a way that this long side goes along the top of the zipper panel when our pull is to the right. So go ahead and right sides together, put them together, and they should be pretty much the same length if you got your seam allowance right with your zipper. And then I'm going to take the corresponding lining piece, right sides up, and we're going to sandwich that zipper panel. So our lining pieces are right sides together and our exterior pieces are right sides together. Just like so. You can see these two are right sides together and these two are right sides together. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take this, and with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, you're going to sew across the top. And then just like what we did with the zipper panel, you're going to open these two up, put them wrong sides together, and you're going to top stitch on the gusset side with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then you're going to repeat with the other side. So go ahead and do that, and then we will come back. All right, so that is done. So now what we want to do, and I guess you could have skipped what I did earlier because I already basted the lining on the zipper panel part together. So I'm going to be double doing it pretty much. So I'm going to go ahead and go around, and I'm going to top stitch. So these are together as well, all the way around. And then we will come back. So you want to top stitch so these aren't all floppy. You want them to be together like this middle panel is. Okay, so we have that panel done. Now what we want to do is pull out our front pocket panel, which is my cute skunks here. And we want to mark up a 1/2 inch from the bottom here. 1/2 inch, and I am actually going to use a dry erase, or usually I would use chalk. This isn't going to be seen. I'm just using a friction felt pen. Yeah. And the same thing on the back pocket panel. 1/2 inch up, mark it. Put this one aside. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to find the centers of the top and bottom of both the front and the back pocket panel. So you can use your pattern piece if you like. I'm just going to fold them in half and take my scissors and do a small snip. And same with on top. Just a small snip within the seam allowance. Like that. Do the same for the back one. On top and on bottom. Okay, and then we want to do the same on both long edges of our zipper panel. I apologize for my dogs there. School is out on the street, and we live on the same street as a high school, so they will probably freak out a little bit as people walk by our street. So again, fold in half, make a snip, and same with the other side on the long side, just to find those centers. Okay. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to take our front pocket panel, and we want to start matching it up with the side that has the, I don't see if you can see this here, that has the curves on it. That is the side that we want to be putting this together with. So we're going to match up that center mark like this. So I just put a couple, I'm just going to put 3 clips there to hold it in place. And then we want this, or this edge here, to come down like this to that 1/2 inch mark that we marked. So the curved part. And put a couple clips there. And then we want to ease it around and evenly distribute that fabric. So that's one side and what it looks like. And then we want to do the other side. So bring this curved part here, line it up like so. Right at that 1/2 inch mark. Perfect. So the right sides together, of course. Okay, and then evenly distribute that fabric around that curve. Okay, and then we are going to take this over to the machine and we're going to sew along here with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. All right, so we're at the machine and we are going to sew that with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. This is a new camera setup, so you have to let me know what you think, if this works good or not. My lighting's still pretty bad, but I am getting new lighting this weekend, so I'm pretty excited about that. All right, so 1/2 inch. So I'm sewing this with my main panel up. Make sure you have your needle down if you need to adjust. And feel for puckers. There was almost a really big one right there. That would not have been good. I have shifted here. Okay. So it feels a little bit awkward, but it'll be fine. Just make sure you don't have any puckers. And just take it nice and slow. As I almost have one right there. As I say that, and then, do you know what? I got a picker. I did. So you can see there, I got a pucker right there. So I'm just going to quickly go and pick that and then I'll come back. So then you can just kind of pop it out just to kind of get a look to make sure you caught everything and that you have no puckers anywhere, which we don't because we caught that one in the beginning. If there is, not a big deal. You just kind of go in and fix that pucker. Okay. So this is what we have. All right, so next what we want to do is, I've got threads everywhere, is we want to take our front pocket lining panel. So this is the piece without foam. And we are going to sandwich, this panel is going to be in between. So along that same place where we just stitched, you're going to match up your center notches like this, and it's going to have all of that inside it. And we are going to put those together. So once we have that done, we want to flip it over, and we are going to follow this 1/2 inch line that we stitched before. We're just going to sew right over top of that to attach the lining, starting and stopping at that 1/2 inch mark on each side. And start and stop at that line. Just like that. So I'm just going to kind of reach in and kind of go around just to make sure everything feels good. Make sure nothing got caught that shouldn't have been caught. Do you think we're okay? And I think we need to trim this down. Let me double check. Okay, so we're going to trim the seam allowance, not at the point where our 1/2 inch mark was here, but above it and all the way around. We're going to trim it down to about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then you can turn it right side out. And it gives us something that looks like this. So right now I am actually going to take this over to my iron. I'm going to just do on the lining side. I'm going to give this a really nice press down here, and then we will move on to the next step. All right, so I've gone and I have pressed that. It looks really good. I just love the shape of this. I do. How it comes down angled. We have our 1/2 inch left open here. And there we go. So now the next step is to take our pocket panel backing. This is the one that has the foam. And it's actually going to be finishing up the lining as well as acting as the foam of the exterior of the bag. So now we're working with the opposite end of the zipper here. The curved side of this goes up towards the zipper panel. You're going to match up your centers with the linings right side together. Put a couple clips at the top first. Okay, match up the bottom centers like this. And then go ahead and clip it all the way around, and then we will come back. Okay, so we have it clipped all the way around, and now we're going to baste this together, including the bottom, with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance all the way around that raw edge. We have a fully functional cargo pocket for the front of the bag. This is the hardest part of the bag. You do it first, you get it over with, and the rest of the bag is a breeze. Okay, so now what you want to do is you want to grab your main front, or your front panel here, main front panel, and we want to find the centers of this long side. So I'm going to just fold it in half. I know this is hard to see. I'm going to move back to the cutting table after this part. I just figured it would be easier to show the sewing on this, just because it is a little bit different and could be a little hard to understand without a visual. So I apologize for the angle of this, but hopefully it's not bad. Okay, so I've got my top and bottom marked. So we're working not with this front one. We're just going to kind of tuck this away. We're working with this back one where we just attach that back panel. And right sides together, we want to match up this and this, our center marks of the, sorry, it's going to go like this. So put this face down like this. We're going to have this up like this, and it's the center, or the bottom edge we are going to be sewing onto this panel. So you want to mark, or take the center part here, match it with our center, and clip. Put in a couple clips here. Okay, and then take the end and work it around. And this should go, I believe, to the 1/2 inch mark, I believe. It should come all the way around. So you want to match out the bottoms here. Put in a couple of clips, and this is going to kind of slip in there. It's going to feel really tight. So you've matched up the bottoms. Match up the bottom corner here. Again, it's going to feel really tight. And then pin it all the way up, like so. So go ahead and pin it the rest of the way, and then we will pin it. All right, so this is what we have. Again, it feels like it's not going to fit, but it will. It's just really tight. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to sew around that seam with a 1/2 inch seam. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to actually have it up like this. I think this is going to be the easiest and give me the most control. So I have that front panel down, and my pocket is sticking out this way. And we're going to do that with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. All the way around. And I'm just going to feel under here to make sure I don't get any puckers. You know, the dreaded pucker. And just take it slow. Clip to clip, and make sure you put needle down when you need to adjust and feel. Make sure it's nice and smooth. Make sure it's all laying flat underneath here. Almost there. Okay, and now the moment of truth. So just go along that seam, make sure there's no puckers. See, I slipped a little bit and it's come up, but that's okay. I'm just going to trim that down. It'll just mean my pocket's not quite as deep. I'm not going to redo it. And there we go. That's our front panel. So what I'm going to do, you can see how cool that is, how it has the 3D pocket on it. Again, this is the hardest part of the whole bag, and we are past it. If I can do it, you can do it. So I'm going to take this to my iron, and I am going to press it. Careful not to get my vinyl here, but just make it press nice and flat. And then I'm going to take you back over to the cutting table where you'll be able to see what I'm doing next better. Okay, so we are all done with the main panel here. So I went and I pressed this all down nice and flat. Once I liked the way it looked, and everything looks fantastic everywhere. This seam here, I went and I cut it to 1/8 of an inch seam allowance as close as I could. That's so it will lie nice and flat. And I also went ahead and added my nameplate to the center of the panel. So this is the hardest part of the bag, and we are done. Yay! So you can set that aside for now. So the next thing we want to do is we want to grab our 4 pieces for our side pockets. And I've already went and clipped this side here. So you want to put the lining and the exterior pieces right sides together, clip them along the top, and then you're going to take it over to the machine and you're going to sew them together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. When you're done that, you're going to flip it so they are wrong sides together. If you're using cotton, go ahead and press the seam. If you have vinyl like me, you will finger press it, and then you're going to go along the top with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance to top stitch it, and then baste around all sides with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So go ahead and do that with both your pieces, and then come back and I'll show you how to do the pleats. Okay, so we have both of those done. So we have our lining and that all basted together. So the next thing we want to do is we want to transfer from our pattern piece the pleat marks here. So I'm just going to take my Choco pen. I'm going to line this up and then just move it up a little bit like this. Mark where those pleats are here. Whoops. Let's try that again. Mark there. And then we want to do the same on the other side. I can see that my pleat marks were right here, like so. And then you want to add onto the first mark and pin together. So we are wanting to, with those pleat marks, we are going to pinch it like this, putting those pleat marks together with lining sides together. So you can see one side there, putting it together. And then we are pushing it over to the exterior rounded side like that and putting a clip. So we're pushing the pleat mark, the pleat, to the outside of the bag. So you're going to do the same with this one. Put those 2 marks together, lining sides together, and then push it towards the outside of the bag like that. So our pleats look like that. And then I'm going to take this to the machine and I'm going to just baste those pleats in place on both of the panels. All right, so I have those pleats basted in place. Now what you want to do is find your centers along the bottom and snip them on both pieces. And then take your exterior side panels. These are the ones where we have that top stitch along here where the foam is like this. And you want to find your centers of these as well. Okay, just along the bottoms there. And then what we're going to do is this is going to look like it's wider than this, but that's because it's going to come up like this and we're going to have it, it's supposed to be, then you can fit bottles and stuff in there, it's billowy. So with both pieces right sides up, you want to match up those center marks. And clip it all the way around. Now when you get to this part where it's wider, you're just going to bring the raw edges together And that's what's going to create that billow in the middle. That's one side. Okay, we're wrong. So 3 inches from the top. Inches from the top, so it's nice and straight. So and then we're going to go and base this around here with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and you're going to do the exact same on the other panel. All right, so we have those all finished and basted together, and you can put those aside with the front panel. Now we're going to work on the back panel. So we want to start assembling our back slip pocket. So what you want to do is take your exterior back panel, that's the one attached to the foam, and a slip pocket lining. Now I've already gone ahead and installed the female magnetic snap on the exterior main panel and the male part of the magnetic snap on the lining of the slip pocket. I've also gone ahead and underneath this duct tape I have just a scrap piece of Decovil Heavy that I put in to reinforce the snap. So these will be going together shortly. Let me just take that off. So you can put this panel to the side for now. You want to grab your lining that has the magnetic snap on it and your exterior slip pocket panel and put them wrong sides together. Clip along the top. Matching those centers. It's always a good idea to put your centers on everything. I try to remember to do that at the very beginning and I never do, so I end up doing it as I go. But it's a habit I wish I could get into, but I just don't. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead just like what we did with the side pockets. So you're going to go and you're going to stitch along this top part with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then you're going to flip them over, press that seam, and then you're going to top stitch along here with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, as well as I'm actually going to go around and just base them wrong sides together as well, just so I know everything is held in place. So go ahead and do that, and then we will attach it to the exterior panel. Okay, so that's done. I have it all top stitched, the wrong sides together, and I went around and basted. You don't have to do that because we're going to do that in this step. I just like to make sure everything is kind of staying in place. So now you're going to take your exterior main panel that has your female snap on it, put the snap in so you know they're nice and lined up, straighten it out, and then clip the sides together. So I'm going to continue clipping, and then I'm going to take it to my machine and I'm going to base this slip pocket to the exterior main panel here with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so that's done. So now we have a fully functioning slip pocket. Now, wasn't that a lot easier than the front panel? I tell you, the rest of the bag is fairly simple. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to start constructing the exterior of our bag. So you want to grab your contrast bottom panel, and as I said, I wish I had already gone and marked my centers, but I'm going to do that now. So I want to mark the centers of the long sides and the centers of the short sides. Of course, it's a little hard to do because I have all my interfacing in there, but I didn't think of it ahead of time like I should have. I think I say that in every single one of my videos, but yeah, well. Okay, and then on the short edges as well. Okay, so we're going to take them and right sides together. We are going to put our bottom along this, matching up that center mark, and put them together. String everywhere. Okay, so we're going to sew along this with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then once we're done that, we're going to open it up, and our seam we're going to want to be pointing towards the bottom panel. And then we're going to top stitch along here with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then you're going to go ahead and do the exact same on this other side with the exterior front panel. So you will be putting it right sides together like this, sewing 1/2 inch, and then top stitching exactly the same as we are doing for this one. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back and put it on the side. Okay, so we have our back panel here attached to the bottom. We have our front panel attached to the bottom. We have it all top stitched with our seam going towards the bottom of the panel, which we want. And now it's time to attach the side panels. We're almost on the exterior of the bag, which is nice. So this is where we marked our centers on the bottom here, and we have the centers on our pocket. So we want to match those up right sides together. So put in a couple clips to hold it in place, and then you're going to bring it up, and you're going to match up the tops here of the main and that. I apologize for my washer, it's on spin cycle there in the background. And again with this side here. And then distribute the fabric all the way around, evenly around the curves, but look how perfectly it's fitting in those curves. So it's not, look at that, how perfect is that? Gotta love it when your measurements are right. And I'm not going to show this at the sewing machine. I'll show you how I'm going to do it, but you're not going to really be able to see what I'm doing because it's going to be blocking the needle pretty much with how I'm going to put it together. Get in there. There we go. And I'm out of wonder clips here. They're all by the sewing machine. So I'll finish clipping it over by the sewing machine. But the way I'm going to do this on the machine is I'm actually going to put the main panel against the bed of the machine and sew along here, and then I'll have to turn the bag as it comes like this and sew up here and down this way as well. That's the easiest way it is for me to sew rather than sewing it like this. That's just awkward. So yeah, put one of your main panels down against the bed of the machine and then sew along this way and just turn it as you go. And you're going to do the exact same side with the other side panel. And so go ahead, do that, and then we will come back. All right, so we have our sides on. You can see like that. And on that side, you could turn it out to make sure it looks good. We will be working the bag with the exterior on the outside for when we put the zipper panels on. So all I'm going to do is just kind of go along and feel and make sure that there's no holes or puckers, and it looks pretty darn good. I'm very happy with it. So you can put that aside for now, and then we're going to start working on the lining of the bag. Now I'm not going to show a lot of how to do the lining. There's two lining slip pockets. They are put together pretty much the same as the exterior slip pocket. The only difference is you're going to put a line up the middle to break it into, or stitching up the middle of it to break it into two separate slip pockets. Exactly the same otherwise. If you follow the instructions in the pattern, it will walk you through that. I'm also going to go ahead and install my interior zipper pocket. I do have a tutorial on that on my Bag Makers 101 playlist. If you need to know how to do that, I do mine for turning. So I'll try to remember to link it in the description below, how I go about doing that, and it gives you a step-by-step of how to install that pocket. Yes, so go ahead and do that. And then once we're all done with that, then we'll come back and we will be making the interior elastic. Okay, so I did the two lining main panels. So we have our one that has the two slip pockets. So again, it was done exactly the same exterior, except for once we have it attached to that lining panel, I just did a line of stitching up the back to make it into two pockets. And then we have the other side that has our zipper pocket on it with an open bottom, which we want. So you can put those aside for now. Next, you want to pull out your elastic bottle pockets. So you should have, I have two different kinds of linings going on. So this is going to be my exterior and this is going to be my lining. So what we want to do, just like we did with the slip pockets of the lining and of the exterior, it's the exact same thing with these. So I'm going to take these right sides together, line them up along the top, the only difference is we are going to sew along this top edge with a 1/4 inch seam allowance rather than a 1/2 inch seam allowance. You're going to go 1/4. So that's what you're going to do across this top here, is a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then when that's done, you're going to flip it around this way, and then we're going to top stitch. But we are going to top stitch along here with a 3/4 inch seam allowance, and then baste these three edges together. So again, you're going to sew here with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're going to top stitch with a 3/4 inch seam allowance, because that's giving us the channel for our elastic, and then we're going to baste the sides down. So go ahead and do that with both of your bottle pockets, and then we will make pleats on them. Okay, so that's done. That's all basted. Now what we want to do is we want to insert our elastic for the bottle pocket. So you can use a safety clip, is that what it's called? Safety pin to do this, but I think this is called a purple thing, I'm not sure, but it's what I always use for pulling things through channels, so it's what I'm going to use this time. I believe it's a purple thing. I think I got it at Emmeline Bags. I think you can get it at any quilt shop or fabric store, but don't quote me on that if that's the name, but I think it's called a purple thing. So all I do is I put in one side of the elastic like this and just kind of wrap it around, almost like a loop-de-loop knot there. And I take this other end and I stick it in my channel and I feed it all the way through. I'm going to start pulling this through. Just going to take it, but before I keep pulling it and it gets too taut, I want there to be about 1/2 inch of elastic sticking out like that, and I'm just going to take a pin to secure it so I can't pull it all the way through like that. And then go ahead and continue pulling, and you're going to see it's going to start raveling because the elastic is 2 inches shorter than the actual pocket. And then untie it from the tool and let the elastic relax so it's about 1/2 inch outside, and then take a pin and put it in place like that. So now what I'm going to go to my machine, and I'm actually going to close this channel off. I'm going to back stitch a couple times over the elastic to make sure it's secured. So just baste that shut, those channels, and then we will move on. I apologize that the last few segments of the video had poor sound quality, as I did not realize I didn't have my microphone plugged into my phone. So hopefully it wasn't too bad, but we're going to move on from there. All right, so now you want to pull out your 2 lining side panels. You want to find your centers. On the bottoms. Like so. And then what you're going to do is take one of your bottle panels here. Can move you closer. My table's not too big. So we have them both facing right side up. You're going to match up that center mark along that curved bottom, of course. And then the sides. Now it's not going to match 100% here. We're going to cut right here. It's going to look like we have an overhang, but we are going to cut that away, so that's okay. We will round it off in 1 second here. So just continue clipping them together. Not worrying about this corner that's sticking out. We will fix that. Put this up so you can see better. Same with the other side. As you'll see, it's going to have this corner sticking out, which is okay. And the elastic is going to want to pull here, so you will have to kind of pull it taut because it's wanting to ravel, which is what it's supposed to do. This, and then you can just take your rotary cutter and round those corners. And same on the other side. Like so. All right, and then you're going to go and baste down each of the sides with 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then repeat with the other panels. Okay, so I have that done. We have these glorious bottle pockets. I've still left these sticking out a little bit. I figure look at the number of times I can sew over them is good, at different seam allowances, of course. Okay, so now we are going to assemble the lining of the bag almost exactly the same as the exterior of the bag. Now, there is one thing that I do different than the pattern, and it's only because it's my preferred way of turning the bag. In the pattern, I believe, I better double check, yeah, she turns the whole bag through the pocket, so that's why the bottom was left open. And I mean, this is probably more than enough space. I just really don't want to struggle with it because it is a big bag. So I'll show you what I do. So I have one of my panels here, and I like it to be on the panel that isn't the zipper pocket. I like it to be on the slip pocket side. We're going to clip them together, but I'm going to make a mark. I'm only going to stitch on the bottoms probably about 2 inches in, because I am going to turn the bag through the bottom of this bag, and then I'm going to use the pocket to seal up the bottom, which you'll see what I'll do. If you follow my videos, you know this is my preferred way of turning a bag, so I just adjusted this to do the same thing. So it's a small adjustment. So we are going to be, the other difference is rather than with the 1/2 inch seam allowance, we're sewing the lining together with the 5/8 inch seam allowance. And the reason we do that is just so we have a tighter fit lining. So it'll be slightly smaller than the
exterior of the bag, which means we won't have an interior that is all... My camera ran out, or my phone ran out of memory, so I had to delete a few things. Again, what I was saying was it's a smaller seam allowance, so we don't have quite a floppy and loose lining, so it just tightens it up a little bit. So yeah, leave, if you're doing this my way, the way the pattern works as well, this is just how I prefer to turn a bag. So I'm gonna go take this to the machine and sew to my line here with a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, make sure I backstitch here as well. And then I'm going to come back, get my other panel and attach it to this side, 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, exactly the same as the exterior of the bag. The only thing I also do different is I don't top stitch the bottom of my lining. I just leave it as is. And then of course put the sides on just like we did with the exterior. So follow, except for leaving this opening here. If you're following the instructions, you can do it exactly like the exterior of the bag, leave it, but with a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Or if you're doing it my way, then just make sure on one side you leave, how many inches is this? I don't know, about a 12-inch opening, I guess, 11-inch, something like that, to make it so you can turn the bag through. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put all those pieces together, and then we'll come back and start working on that. Okay, so we have the interior lining all done. So you'll see here, just on the one side, we have an opening in the bottom, we have an opening in the pocket, and it is all sewed together nicely. So you can just pull that aside for now, and then we're almost done. We're on to the top zipper panel. So very similar to how, well, it's almost similar. There's a slight difference, I guess, but it's very similar to how we did that cargo pocket zipper. The only difference is we are going to fold in the ends of these. So what we're going to do is each end of the two exterior pieces and the two lining pieces, we want to fold them in 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make line on the opposite sides at the 1-inch mark, and then I'm going to fold the ends in, and that will be our 1/2 inch. Which kind of gives a guideline to where to fold them in. All those first. That's 1 inch, not 1/2 inch. 1 inch. 1 inch. And then the same on our lining pieces. And if you're using cotton, you can definitely press these in, but because I have vinyl, I cannot. Oops. Okay. And I'm going to take some double-sided tape and put it just to the left, like towards the exterior of the panel, like this. This, maybe don't need to use this thick of a piece of double-sided tape. I grabbed the wrong size. And then fold the short ends into that line we just drew. And finger press it. So that should work out to being folded in 1/2 inch, which it is. So we'll do that on all the pieces. Which I'm just going to do 2 right now. Show you what we're going to do, and then we'll do the other one. Okay. Okay, and then take an exterior one. Do the same thing. Now, because this one has so much foam in it, I'm actually just going to take a couple clips just to help take some of the pressure off that tape for now. And the other side. Okay, so you will do that for all 4 zipper panels, but I'm only going to work with the 2 right now. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to, first off, let's make sure they're the same length. We want them to be the same, which I believe, maybe not. They are not. So I have to adjust how much I folded in to make them the same length. It's very important that they are the same length, but my cotton pieces may have shrunk a little bit, so just put that there like that. Put this in there. And there we go. Now they're the same length. There's my double-sided tape on that side. So yeah, just very important that you make sure that the pieces are the same length. Double-sided tape. That should be right. And there we go. Okay. So if you are using a handbag zipper, you will want to mark your center of that. I'm using Zipper by the Yard, which I actually have cut longer than the 24 inches it's called for. This way I don't have to mark the centers too much. I just know that I'm going to want an equal amount on each side hanging over, and I'm probably going to trim that up later on because I think it's only supposed to be about an inch or so over. So the reason I do that is I have tacked at the end here, and I just like to pull my 2 zipper pulls out of the way, so they're not going to hinder my sewing, and I try to find a somewhat centered place. So just like we did with the exterior piece, I am going to, oh, this one's too thick, take some double-sided tape, and on the right side of the lining piece, double-sided tape. Now the reason we folded in these ends is because they are not going to be in the seam of the bag, because they're going to be hanging down the sides. You'll see what I mean once we get there. Okay. Again, you can use clips. We just know how much I like to use tape. Tape is fighting with me today. Okay. And then I'm just going to eyeball the center-ish here. And then with the zipper tape right side up and the lining panel right side up, you want to stick it down to the tape or clip it down. Cut extra like I have, you just want to make sure there's about 1.5 inches left over on each side, which there is. I'll be trimming one of them up a little bit. Okay, and then you're going to take your exterior piece and put tape along the top as well. Tape. Okay, and you're going to want to make sure this lines up perfectly, just like we did the other with that lining panel. I'm actually, just because of the interfacing, the foam, I'm just going to put some a clip there just to hold it in place, give it a little bit more security. Very important that we're going to get that lining piece into the seam because we do not want a fraying edge there. Go down, and that should all the way down. Again, you can use clips. I just like my super sticky tape. My industrial machine doesn't have any issues with tape at all. It doesn't come up my needle, it doesn't wreck my stitching, so I tend to gravitate towards the fast and easy. Okay, so that's up there. Make sure we're going to catch, whoops, and that away from my interfacing, which I don't want to do. And they're all matched up. And then we are going to go and stitch that, I believe. Yes, with the 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now in the pattern, it does it in 2 steps. Because I'm using the tape, I'm doing it in 1 step. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to baste this with, not baste it, sew this with a 1/4 inch. That's done. So after I sewed that, just like we did with the other zipper panel, I flipped the wrong sides together and then I top stitched an 1/8 inch around this, away from the zipper. Do not, I really do not sew down these edges and across here just yet, because we're going to be making a channel in here for the boning. So we want to leave them off. What I did is I turned on this side here where there is no vinyl, and I did a really hot steam press just to make sure everything is staying in place. So now, just as we did with the other panel, we're going to go ahead, do the exact same thing with this one. Make sure they line up on each side here, just like we did with the front gusset. Let's do the same thing, sew them on, turn the wrong sides together, and then do a 1/8 inch seam allowance along the top. And then after that, we will be making the boning channels. We are so close to being done. So go ahead and sew on the other 2. Again, make sure that they line up and are even with the one we've already sewn on. We have them both on there and top stitched. So now what we want to do is we want to find the centers of these. So again, fold them in half, mark up our ends here, and just do a small snip where our centers are, through the lining and through the, within a 1/4 inch on both sides. Like so. And then we're going to take our 2 zipper panel stabilizers. This is where I'm using Decovil Heavy, Fusible Decovil Heavy, and we want to find centers of one of the sides on that. Just make a little snip. And then what we're going to do with this is you're going to flip up this panel here to expose the lining. And we want to line up that center snip, the lining center snip that we just made. And we want to push it as far up towards that seam as we can. So I'm trying to get it like almost right up next to that stitching, as close as I possibly can. So it'll go like that. So you can see how as snug as you possibly can, centered. And then you're going to take this to the iron and you are going to iron it on. And you're going to do that on the opposite side as well. So go ahead and do that. Get it as close to that stitch line as you can and as centered as you possibly can, only fusing it to the back side of the lining piece. Okay, so we have that done. You can see the piece of Decovil Heavy. You could use Peltex in there if you like as well. I prefer Decovil Heavy. It's not readily available here in Canada, but you can buy it at Emmeline Bags, so I've been buying it from there. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is on each side we want to mark. I'm going to use my Choco for this. So you want to mark a 1/2 inch away. I'm going to pull these out of the way.
1/2 inch away from our top stitching that we had just done. Try to make it as straight as you possibly can. And just take your Choco and mark that. If you're using cotton, I wouldn't use a friction pen because that may leave a white mark, which you don't want. So to continue across like that. And then you want to draw another one 1/2 inch away from that line as well. And what we're doing here is we're creating the channel for the boning. This is such a cool concept. Like it's amazing. I've done lots of bags where you use the wires that you slip in, which you can buy from Emmeline as well, but this makes it so you don't have to do that. So 1/2 inch away down from that top stitching, and then another 1/2 inch. Do the same on the other side. Now, if you think you can eyeball this and you don't want to mark it, by all means do that, but I will not get a straight line. I know me, and my machine sometimes does still get away from me, so this is better to be safe than sorry. Okay, and then a 1/2 inch down. Okay, and then you're going to take this to your machine, and through all layers, you're going to top stitch down those lines, and that's going to leave a channel right down the middle here for our boning. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll start with the boning. Actually, at the same time over here, the next step is actually doing zipper tabs to finish off the ends of the zipper. I'm not doing those. I'm using metal zipper tabs. So I'm going to go ahead and put those on the ends as well. You can go ahead and make the cloth ones if you like and add them, or however you like to finish your zipper ends off. There we do. We've done all of our channels. We're good to go. Now we are going to attach our handles. I just want to make sure I didn't skip anything by accident. No, I did not. Okay, so we have our handles here. You're going to need a little ruler. And we have our center marks that we made. So we want to, I don't remember my measurements, 3 inches away from that center mark is where we want to put our handles. So there's my center there. I'm just going to move it up like that. And put that there and put a clip there. You could put some tape there if you wanted to as well. Three inches, 3 inches. And then bring them around and do the same on the other side. Make sure this is the side. That looks fine. 3 inches and line it up like that. And clip it on. And then you're also going to take one of your D-rings for the crossbody strap. And you're going to put it 1 inch over from where that strap ends. So we will want to put it right there. Like that. And then you're going to do the same on the opposite side, but the D-ring will be on the opposite side of the bag on the other side. I'm not going to attach those just yet. I'm going to go and baste these on right away. At the same time, I am going to just baste this bottom edge all the way across, not the sides, just the bottom edge, and just the bottom edge here as well. So go ahead, do that with this side, do it with the other side, and then we'll move on. Okay, so we have those all attached. We are so close to being done. My phone is almost dead, so I'm trying to power my way through this. I want to be able to show you everything we're doing. So you want your exterior of the bag with the wrong side out right now. You're going to take your zipper panel, and you're going to unzip it. And we are going to match those centers that we did with the center of the top of the bag, like so. And if you feel where that stabilizer went, it should match exactly into this crease, which mine does. Clip that around there and this side. I can feel my stabilizer goes to right there, which comes right to the corner of the bag, which is what we want. Okay, and then we're going to continue this around. You're going to bend this and you're going to attach it to the side here like this. Keep following it around. So it's right sides together, of course. Same with on the other side. Use lots of clips if you need. Bend this so it comes all the way around. This is what's going to give it that really unique shape once we put the boning in. Do it with the other panel. And you want to make sure that your handles are pointing down. You don't want them pointing up. Otherwise, they will get caught in that seam, and you don't want that. If you can open up your seams, do that as well. Should do that on this side. And again, push it down so it follows all the way down. So close to being done. It's a very tall bag, so now I'm standing up so I can show you what I'm doing here. Okay. And then follow it all the way around like that. So there will be a slight gap. I think it's probably about 3/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch between the panels here. See right there? So there's that gap there, and that's what we want. So now I'm going to take this to my machine and I'm going to baste this on with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. The way I'm going to do it is from the inside of the bag. I'm going to place it down like this and go all the way around and just turn the bag as I go. So go ahead and do that. Baste that on with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I have that all basted on and around. So that's good. Now it's time to add in, whoops, the lining. So we want the lining to be, I believe, place lining into the exterior. Okay, so we want to put our lining and our bag right sides, or outer right sides together. Now this is opposite from how I do most bags. Usually I'm putting the exterior into the lining, but now I'm putting the lining into the exterior. So you want to think about where you want things placed. My front pocket's in the front there, and I like my zipper to be at the back of the bag, so I'm going to make sure my zipper panel is at the back of the bag. I'm going to stuff that in. I'm going to match up our centers that we hopefully already marked. Clip it all the way around. You can match your seams, your side seams here, if you can see them. Said it's a very tall bag. I'm hoping that you can see what I am doing here. Okay. So that zipper panel is now sandwiched between the exterior and the lining. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to sew this the same way, where I'm sewing from the inside of the bag with the exterior on the machine bed. And we are going to sew along this top with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to finish clipping this up, and then I'm going to go and do that. And then once that's done, we can turn the bag. So I'm going to turn the bag, as I said, I'm going to turn it through the bottom, and then I will come back and I will show you how I close up that bottom through that zipper pocket, in case you're doing it the same way I am, because I just ran out of wonder clips. I got to go back to my machine where my other ones are. All right, so go ahead and do that. Turn your bag through the bottom or turn your bag through the pocket, depending which turning method you chose to use for it this time. So 1/2 inch seam allowance around that top. It was a little bit of a workout getting it through there. I'm glad I left the opening in the bottom rather than pulling it through the pocket. So now we want to close up this opening. So this is my way of doing it. So you're going to open up that zipper pocket and you're going to pull out the pocket. Okay. Now you want to reach in through that pocket and grab that opening in the bag here. You want to pull it up through the pocket. This bag is so big and I'm standing, but I don't know how much you're able to see. So now we're just going to clip. Of course, I didn't bring my clips with me. You're going to clip that opening shut in the bottom of the bag. And what that does is it gives us a seamless closure in the bottom of the bag. Now, if you followed the pattern, you could have just turned the bag through the pocket. The pocket is big enough that probably would have been just fine, but this is how I like to do it. So go ahead. I forgot my clips in the other room. Got a couple more hiding here, because there's always clips everywhere. So we're going to close this up with a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. That's because that's what we did our lining seam allowance at. And then once we're done that, I need one more clip. We'll use this one. Once we have that all sewn, we push it back inside the bag, and then the zipper pocket, we just top stitch, because we got it nicely folded down already, just top stitch along the top to close that up. So go ahead and do that, and then we're on to the boning, and then guess what? We're done. Okay, so the hole in the bottom of the bag's all closed up. The next thing to do is to add our boning. So you're going to cut 4 pieces at 21.5 inches. I've already put one in this top channel. So you'll see we made 2 channels here. There's one here and one here. So this may take a little bit of patience and massaging the bag and everything to get it through, but trust me, it's well worth it. So just start at one end and feed it through that channel. Oops, I'm going to start at the other end. There you go. See how it feeds through? So you're going to keep feeding that through, and you're going to do that for all 4 channels. It will take some time because you do got to kind of massage it through a little bit, loosen up the fabrics a little bit to get it to go through that channel little bit by little bit until all ends are in. You're going to do that on both sides, and then up this side here, you're going to close up those channels with an 1/8 of an inch top stitch. So go ahead and do that, get them all going through, and then there's just one more thing we have to do, and this bag is done. So have fun doing that. This is my favorite and least favorite part of this bag because it does take a little bit of patience to get that through there. So go ahead, do that, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to shape it. Okay, so with a little bit of struggle, I got the boning in. I found because of the vinyl, you have to make sure that the boning isn't trying to go in behind that Decovil Heavy that we put on the lining side. So I almost have to poke the boning towards the vinyl side to get it to go smoothly, and I spent some time kind of massaging to soften the vinyl because I did use a marine vinyl, so it's a little bit stiff. But we did get her done. So, and I top stitched these closed, so we are good to go to shape the bag. So on the sides here, where we had the different shape of foam, that's where we're going to shape the bag. So it's going to kind of pull in and down. You kind of poke this down like this, and then do the zipper up like that. That makes sense? See how it kind of goes in like that? That's what we want it to do on both sides. So what I'm probably going to do overnight with this bag is take some butterfly clips and put them on there to make that boning remember that shape. But it does hold it pretty good once it's done. See, there we go. That side's already holding its shape. So, and then there's the other side. We want it to do the same thing. So you're kind of poking it in and bending that boning right at the side seam there. So it's right at the side seam here. You're bending the boning and then doing that zipper up and then bending it where it's supposed to go. Look, it's already holding it. So that's what gives this bag its amazing shape, is that boning. But I am probably going to take a couple butterfly clips and put it on there like that. And then your crossbody strap clicks on here and on here. So that's it. That is the one with the diaper, or the one with the baby diaper bag. Said the hardest part, or parts I would say, would be this front panel and then getting the boning through. But I mean, seriously, how amazing is that? Anyways, I hope you guys all found this tutorial. You probably noticed I've changed my clothes. I'm getting ready to go out for my husband's birthday. We're just going to Mr. Mike's for dinner. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you, Jen from Sincerely Jen, for allowing me to do a tutorial of her amazing pattern. I've got a couple of these on order already. This one I'm actually going to sell hopefully at an artisan market if they ever open up again. But yes, I hope that this was a useful tutorial. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I gotta head on out. So if you like this, please make sure you hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. Again, and thank you, Jen, for allowing me to do your pattern in a tutorial. Anyways, thanks everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.